All right, and here we go. Hi, everybody. I'm Alexius Poorman, and today I am hosting with Woody Arnold, as our
Hey,
show is minus a doc.
yeah, and minus good cell signal.
Well, nothing like a
I
live show to make shenanigans happen.
right. Um, hey, Alex, you're rocking the left side of the screen there, buddy.
Don't worry about it.
Okay.
So the
Yeah, I've
better question comes up is why are you out and about ready to get carjacked?
right. We're bringing back that old gag. Well, I am enjoying the lovely neighborhood of Ballard today. Watching some guys play baseball, and well, I guess the short form of this is I had a flat tire on Monday till Tuesday, so I'm making up my work week a little bit today.
So that's why you're out and about looking for people to carjack you so that we can get some more ratings, right?
Yes, yes, absolutely. I'm here trying to make Doc's day.
So,
So,
minus Doc, what do we got
yeah.
going on today?
Well, we were discussing our plans. We're talking about doing a larger mini series, and you wanted to do a small form, single issue book report, as you put it. So, I really wanted to take another look at some of the comics from Free Comic Book Day, and so one of the ones that we had been looking at but hadn't reviewed yet was one of the offerings from Marvel. One of only two that I saw on Free Comic Book Day. We discussed the
That's on Comixology.
yeah. Well, actually, it was one of only two that I even found in the shops. Like Marvel
Oh,
didn't have a lot to go around. They had a lot. There were a ton of kids books. Like there were Marvel and DC both had some kids offerings, staggering amount for Archie actually. But like the as far as like actual serious comic book effort, all they had was that I saw where that was that Avengers book that we looked at, and the and a Spider-Man one. And the Spider-Man book is actually a full-size comic book, surprisingly, except it's divided between two different stories. And one of them is set next major event, and another one is just a silly, fun story, just a day in the life kind of thing. Um, and the first one we should probably talk about is the first part, which focused on Eddie Brock, the famous Venom character. And there was an interesting point where they literally just jumped right into the story without any preparation. And I usually have a good time following these things, but I was a little bit confused and perplexed about what was going on. And then it turns out that the title page that explains everything was at the end of the book. So
yeah,
I
a
don't know if you
little
got the
different.
chance got a chance to see that, Alex, um, but it didn't sadly didn't explain much about this. So the setup of the book is Eddie Brock, who's got a beard and is not dying of cancer now, has shown up raving about some sort of a symbiote god that's going to kill everybody, and then he ends up in prison, in Rikers Island, where they put the normie people. And at first, it looks like I think we just bust out the story and just talk about the whole thing because like it's like I don't know if there's any point in keeping it from spoilers in this one, but like basically so bizarre. He ends up in there, meets some guy that's like, like big man on the block who has a Venom tattoo on his chest, who turns out to be a fragment of a symbiote, of the actual Venom symbiote, I guess. And then Eddie pulls that off of him, transforms into some version of Carnage, and everybody in the prison. So I don't know what the hell's going on. This was just an acid trip kind of a story. And then he gets out and has an enemies list of people that he wants to take out. And it's like, oh, let's start with Spider-Man. Big surprise. And this is certainly a hinged version of Eddie Brock as opposed to what we've seen in past stories. What was your impression of this, Alex?
So I haven't been following too much of like current Marvel, so it's kind of one of those things of seeing, um, the previous incarnations of like what they've done with the characters, and then
Yeah.
now it's an interesting spin.
Yeah,
Character
yeah,
design
it
I
is.
thought was pretty interesting. I like um, the spiral. I thought that
Yeah,
was an interesting little ad.
yeah, whatever that's all about. Yeah, and I noticed the story was peppered with little tidbits because Flash Thompson was the previous Venom, and I think Marvel needed to get rid of the Flash Thompson Venom because of the movie that had Eddie Brock in it, because everything has to match the movies. And so there was a thing where they made Venom back. Venom became Eddie Brock again, but I don't know. I have no idea really what's going on here. It's like I went and looked up on Wikipedia, and there was nothing in the Wikipedia article that led into this story. It's just this is just literally out of the blue. I It's almost like they're deliberately trying to make it as bizarre as possible to make you go, "What's going on? I have to read this." Which is
To a
not a
story
bad
arc,
tactic.
I do kind of wonder if there's any Marvel fans, or maybe even just going on to like say um, Marvel's wiki site. Maybe there's like more information, that can find out like what led up to the story, or is this the very fresh part of whatever thing that they're doing,
Yeah,
for this free comic book day.
I mean it's because apparently, like, I mean, it's clearly like the beginning of like this is part one of whatever the next major event is for Spider-Man. But it's like it's bizarre. I mean, like Eddie Brock is supposed like they had basically turned him into kind of an anti-hero character that you could. Venom's popular, so you have to do something with Venom, but he is literally being Carnage and just a crazy psychopath. And I I I don't know. I mean, like, haven't even really kept up with the Cletus Cassidy character, who's the host of Carnage, and it's kind of implied from what little information that we got that Cletus Cassidy has been gone for a while, and it's just that's been running around doing Carnage stuff, and and somehow it's become kind of weirdly immortal. But Carnage is popular, so that's what you get with your plot armor, as you like to say. Um, but it's just and I guess there's a symbiote god that created all the symbiotes that's gonna I don't know. It's such a weird story. At least with the Avengers offering for Free Comic Book Day, I mean, it was a lead into another story, but you got kind of a complete story. It's like you you could follow it and you could understand where. Okay, I can see what's happening. I kind of want to see what happens next, right? And the actual Venom symbiote is in that story. So, like, what is going on with Eddie Brock? I have no idea, and it's so confusing that for me, it doesn't actually do anything to entice me to want to follow the actual story.
Oh, okay, so on at least the first part of this book, the
Mm-hmm.
matrix that we generally have been doing, what is
Yes.
your kind of like thoughts about like the first part of this book itself, the one where we get
Well,
reintroduced to Eddie as
sure. Well,
Venom Carnage ish.
I mean, as I've been kind of implying on the story portion, I think it fails utterly. But as usual, Marvel like almost always has top tier talent, so the art is just absolutely stellar. Like whether you like the content or not, it's completely spot on. Anatomies are great. Everything's like very good, believable. It's high quality production in there. And again, as usual, also like Marvel also has top tier lettering talent, and I didn't spot anything out of the ordinary particularly. I mean, it was from top to bottom. It's just the storyline was just way bizarre. I think you actually have to read. You're gonna have to go back and read more books if you want to understand what's going on here.
No, that definitely makes sense. And is that some carjackers laughing?
No, it's kids on a bike
Oh, okay.
and some dude playing music.
Ah,
It's just ambiance. Don't worry about
part of
it.
the joy of the
Yeah,
public area where you had to get
yeah.
yourself ready for the
Hey,
carjacking.
I'm just happy I've got a shady spot.
Nothing like those shady spots. But
Yeah, exactly.
no, I definitely do agree. It's like art wise, it was quite enjoyable.
Mhm.
It was. I didn't think it was anything like a major wow factor. Not to say that the artist was bad, It's just that for me, some of the styles that I really like or get really appeal to, um, it didn't really blow my socks off.
No, but it is exactly the level of professionalism
Oh yeah,
that a top tier character at a top tier company at a top tier book should have. Like, this is exactly what you should expect from a top tier book in terms of quality.
yeah, no disagreement. And
Yeah.
like you said, I mean, you have a better chance of spotting those various lettering mistakes more so than myself.
Yeah.
But
It's my thing.
right.
Yeah.
You put your skill points into lettering.
Exactly.
Um,
Yeah.
but as story, I do agree. It's one of those things of, and I do wonder if it's just that simple fact of, like you said, if the two of us did actually read Marvel on a more consistent basis, would we, go into here and say like, oh, I know what they're doing, or I've seen enough of, like back in the day where X-Men had Uncanny X-Men, X-Men, X-Force,
Excalibur.
Excalibur, all these
Yeah.
other titles that you had to jump to continue reading the series. But,
Right.
but like if you read just the main series, there would be like these little inconsistencies, these little gaps
Yeah.
in what was going on because, uh, pick up issue whatever, which is a great
Yeah.
marketing thing, but at the same time, it does kind of make it a little on the confusing part of like going, oh, I got to jump over to this other thing, you know.
Well, the thing is, and I think that you and I with this completely is that, like, currently, I mean, Marvel, when they were just Marvel comics, had a lot more opportunities for, like, being creative and having real stakes and weight, because, like, they could have killed off Wolverine, it would have been fine. You know, and, like, right now, basically the problem is that, and only compounded with the fact that there's a larger corporate entity owning these things. Like, the characters are valuable, they're worth money, and for me, when a character becomes so valuable that he becomes an IP, that he becomes like a line item on like a company's balance sheet, and it's like the company is investing in Marvel because Marvel has Venom and Wolverine and Thor, right? Like, and Spider-Man, like these characters which currently rank as like kind of like the pillars of community. Iron Man, right? Like, because these characters exist in the current form where they are a valuable business investment, you can't do too many things with them, and they cannot be replaced by the next generation. And so it's like it's very hard to be invested in the stories, but like, and want to keep reading them. But also, we're evaluating this on the fact that, let's say somebody picks us up for Free Comic Book Day, and this is their first introduction of the character. As Stanley said, comic, and does this make you want to keep reading? And I say no, absolutely not. There's nothing about this story that made me want to pick up the next.
No, I definitely
And
do
it
get you.
failed in that regard.
I definitely get you on that. Um, I wasn't truly impressed with the fanfic version of Conan meets what the Jetsons. What am I looking for? The
Avengers.
Avengers. And
Yeah.
but at the same time, I do agree that as a story wise, it had enough of a setup of like, oh, okay, this is kind of what's going on, a general idea of what the placement is, and even um, reading after the fact of what do I want to say? The comic book itself, yeah, it felt fine. It felt coherent enough of like I didn't really have to know too much that Wolverine is doing this or these other characters
Yeah.
are doing whatever activities that they are. More than
Conan's
there is
doing
a certain
Conan
level
stuff.
of
Wolverine's doing Wolverine
mystery.
stuff. Yeah. Well, that book was a success because it did create interest. Like Daniel, the other Daniel, who does the great work for the channel, like, that, like basically, if the 4 people involved in this production, at half of us, it worked. It succeeded because half of us became interested in the book, right?
Right.
So like that's right now we've got 100% failure. But we should probably talk about the other story too. I think we've got our opinions on Venom successfully enough. There's also the other half of the book dealt with Spider-Man and the Miles Morales, and that one opens up with it kind of looking like they're about to get into a fight, and it turns out it's just a pizza battle.
Right. I definitely did like the setup, and I gotta say that Miles is actually a really interesting case about like how you were saying about before of when previous characters do die and that kind of next generation coming up. Like his character is actually a really great here's not Peter Parker, but here's another character that takes on the mantle of Spider-Man. And I think does it in a good way that, feels enough of like the spirit of the original character, but does it within his own take, his own feel, that he's his own person. Because I think that's like one of the problems that I've seen in some of the other books that Marvel has done with characters of like, here's Thor Lad or, Iron Maiden or whatever. And they're just kind of like...
If only they could actually...
What's that? Oh, they're just like...
If only they could actually call her that.
Right. But I mean, it's like blatant kind of rip-offs of the original character. So, some of these previous incarnations have been basically like, oh, here's Tony Stark, but now young lad, Iron Man,
Sure.
Iron Lad.
Well, they actually had an Iron Lad too.
That is so...
Well, the
anyways,
thing
go
about...
on.
Yeah. No, well, the thing about Miles Morales, which I think is noteworthy, is that something that Marvel has done periodically over the years is they would create a secondary publishing imprint of sort, publishing line where you have one of their parallel universes, okay? And that entire universe would basically give birth to its own comic series set in that universe. And they are successful to varying degrees, right? Because you have, like, the first time I'm aware of this happening was with the Spider-Girl series. Took place, was basically a spin-off of What If. Then they did the Ultimate line, which is where Miles Morales came from. And then more recently, they tried to do it with Spider. Sadly, has not been as successful as the others. But the character obviously will continue because she's popular. But like with the Miles Morales character, he could exist because it ultimately didn't matter. Because like the character that matters is the original 616 Peter Parker, alternate universe 616, which is the main universe Marvel series takes place in. The other one, the Ultimate Universe, was like 1610 or something, and like that one doesn't matter. It can come to an end, and at the end of the day, it has no bearing on the main continuity. And so you can kill that Peter Parker, and it doesn't matter.
Right.
But it did matter because when they did it, it made headlines, and the replacement Spider-Man, by some miracle, ended up being just as successful as the other Peter Parker had been. And he's survived the ending of the 616 or the Ultimate imprint, even to the point where they're even talking about reviving it again to give him someplace to go, which I thought that they're interesting. I don't know if it'll ever happen because Marvel, but the off topic. The story itself, based on Spider-Man and Miles Morales having a contest over whose pizza was best childhood pizza, and I thought it was rather funny actually that they run into the Shocker, and the Shocker had been in the original Spider-Man Ultimate Spider-Man series had been kind of presented as kind of a punchline and a joke, that just somebody for Spider-Man to beat up when you needed a breather in the series, and here he is again kind of doing the exact same thing. And then when he finds out why they're having their argument, he's like, oh no, it's this other place was the best pizza. And I think they actually checked it out and thought it was pretty, just like, it. The one thing I didn't like about it was that Shaw presented as a total scumbag. There was no going there to rob a clinic to steal the drugs so he could sell them on the black market. I mean, really? That's your supervillainy. Good Lord.
Well, recharging people's cell phones is not what he does for a living.
No, that is absolutely for sure. And I also thought it was interesting how they he got the double punch team up, and it's like both of these guys can easily bench press 10 tons. I mean, damn.
Yeah. Hey, hold on one moment, Woody.
Yeah.
So we
no
got
problem.
One Mighty R, which is a friend of mine from the art community that has just
great.
Stopped in.
Oh, hey, hello, welcome. Does your
What's that?
friend have a question?
No. I just saw him in the chat, so just wanted to definitely do a shout out. Thank you for definitely joining. We've just been nerding out about Free Comic Book Day.
Did this person in the chat read the book? Did he have an opinion?
I don't know what when you jumped into our stream, One Mighty R. So
yeah. Well, sorry. Okay, so back to my train of thought, which was skillfully interrupted.
Oh yeah. But I just wanted to make mention of. So today on our review, we've been reviewing. What was it? Spider-Man.
Spider-Man for Free Comic Book Day, which you can actually download it on Comixology if you would like to read the book. It's completely free, though you do of course have to have a Comixology account, which doesn't cost anything.
Or potentially, if comic book shops still have the actual physical copy available,
it's possible. It's been at least 3 weeks. So I don't think so. It seems unlikely. It's one of the books that's easy to come by. But as far as like the quality of the art in the story, I mean, again, just like the Venom story, I mean, completely top tier, right? They had a quality artist. I mean, again, nothing really knocks your socks off about it, but it was very well executed, competently put together. Spider-Man's making all the poses he's supposed to make. The webs look good. No issues with lettering. I mean, the story, much more interesting than the Venom story. It had a complete beginning, middle, and end. There was a point to it, and there was something to become invested in. I think it ultimately doesn't matter. But as far as like it, but it is a good story, I think, for a Free Comic Book Day, because it's a story which, unlike the Venom story, it's a story that you can be safe letting your kids read, and it's completely fine, and at least that part of it. And but it also introduces the characters. You get to know who the different Spider-Men are. And if you've never read a Spider-Man comic book, you've got an introduction to one of his primary villains, and now you've got an introduction to Spider-Man, and two different ones. And it's like, it's that aspect of it, I think, succeeds because it's the introduction of the character that you need. If anybody can just walk in and grab the book, there needs to be something about the book to interest them. And I think, I mean, I think the second half of the book is far more successful than the first half.
I get you. Going over the three for myself, I didn't see anything. So the three that we go over is lettering, art, and storyline. As lettering goes, I didn't see anything that was a blaring mistake or any kind of obvious hiccups within the way that the typography were, or the word balloons or anything of that nature. As the second part of the story, I thought story-wise, this was probably one of my more favorable Marvel books reading, because it was a slice of life, slice of pizza kind of story. And so
slice of life, that's funny.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just basically the interactions of these two characters, Miles and Peter,
Peter,
basically talking to each other, and at first making it sound like it was an argument, but I just loved how towards the end, I mean, there was a really great line within it. How that the cheese, the pepperoni, and the taste of home, and I just loved
tastes like childhood.
Yes, and it's like I love that line because it just felt it summed up so many various things of how somebody can go and say like, oh, I really enjoy this, or like how like a great example is various movies, especially reboots and things of that nature, where you might have seen the remake because of whatever generation or part that you've come up to grow in, and then when people say like, oh no, you should like the classic, but it may not be part of your generation, it may not be part of your home, so to speak. And I thought,
it ultimately came down to opinions in this story, I think.
Oh yeah, and I think that was like a really neat part of like one, not only giving this to somebody that's looking to get into Spider-Man, but somebody that I would say potentially wants to write a good story. Here's character interaction. There is some action. There's a level of two characters that you get to know over the course of what do you want to say, about like 12 pages within that chunk?
Maybe 12.
10-ish.
Probably maybe. Not even 12, but yeah, 10-ish.
But either way, I mean, you've got this really nice part of two characters interacting with each other, and story-wise, it's like I said, and I mean, I wouldn't say that I completely hate like the mainstream Marvel or DC kind of thing, but this was probably one of my most favorite once again stories. I mean, it was just it was enjoyable.
It was a complete beginning, middle, and end.
Yeah, a
story.
Self-contained.
It doesn't lead into anything else.
Right, and it wasn't the epic with a snap. The universe is going to end, but at the same time, I liked it.
Yeah. Well,
and as
there is one.
Yep. Yeah. Go ahead.
There was one thing about it that really bugged me, and it doesn't matter, but it's just something that I thought was odd, because like okay, you've eaten pizza, I've eaten pizza. I've probably eaten more variety because I've had the chance lately to sample pizza from all over the city. But I can tell you that pepperoni pizza is greasy. Okay, that no matter what kind you have. Okay, so at the beginning of the story, they have their masks pulled up and they're eating the pizza with their gloves. Okay, that's going to ruin your costume. They're wearing spandex. Okay, and it's
so
like, are you telling me that
Richards must have used a special formula to make some sort of deflector bounce off of the Star Trek thing. But seriously,
exact same formula means that their hands don't stick to the web line. But
now you're just nitpicking, dude.
Yeah, I know. But the thing is like that, I saw that and I was like, oh my god, it's like the guy that wrote this has never eaten a slice of pepperoni. And it's just, it's like,
or
and
maybe
nobody
he was focused on good storytelling opposed to nitpicking the nerdness.
And I'm sure that's
yes, greasy.
This one's
Mighty R
is more likely the blame of the artist. Actually, it's probably the artist, but it's like they're sitting there. They could have pulled the mask up this far, but they pulled up all the way. So it's like nobody saw their faces. Oh, Spider-Man's black. Interesting. It's like it's just, oh my goodness. Or it's like, who the hell's... that was actually one of the funny things, is that in the Ultimate Spider-Man, when Kingpin saw Spider-Man's face in one of his early stories, it was like, he's just a kid, who's this? And it's like, seeing his face didn't matter because he had no idea who this kid was and no way to track him down off of a face. And I thought that was great. It was like, oh, that makes complete sense. That's exactly how it would be. You saw my face. Cool. I'm a high school kid. Great. There's like 100,000 of those in the city or something. It's like, how do I find him? I don't know. Okay, Thug 1, Thug 2, Thug 3, you guys are going to go look at this picture and then go to every yearbook in the city. No, it's like, it wouldn't work that way, It would be impractical. Anyways, so yeah.
We probably should do wrap up unless want to keep on going since we generally start at 4 and go to 3:30. But
you mean start at 4 and go to 4:30?
Yes, that too.
Yeah, we're recording backwards in time.
Yes, we got our TARDIS and good catch.
Yeah, we're heavy on the tard. Okay, so
nice.
well, I mean, like as a free comic book day book, God, it's. I think that if you're into Spider-Man and you want to read the series, this is probably going to be an essential book because whatever they're doing with Venom, whatever acid trip madness that was, it clearly leads into the next Spider-Man event, and it's information you're going to want to read if you want to read that story. But good God, I have no idea what's going on. It was a very poor presentation for a first introduction. So, and certainly not kid-friendly. I should probably point that out. Good God, that was not kid-friendly at all. Ugh. But I did rather enjoy the actual Spider-Man story. I'm not a Spider-Man reader. I love the character in the movies. I have never really gotten into it in the comics, but it was a fun story. Because it's so weird. Like, I would share that story with my kid in a heartbeat. But I wouldn't give him this book because of the Venom story. So I'm not sure what Marvel's up to with this. But I'm kind of divided on this story, 50-50.
No, I definitely agree. So within this comic book, since it was two different stories, the first one dealing with Venom, it was one of those things of I just kind of read it because it was part of our oral presentation today. And,
it was the reading assignment.
Yeah, it was the reading assignment. To be honest, if that was the entire part of the book, all I remember was it looked cool on some of the artwork, but besides that, there was a prison scene, and I can't really remember it because I read it on after I talked to you on Monday evening, basically Tuesday morning, and but anyways, as I was reading it, it was just enough of like the details on that one. Because reading so many books just eludes me. But as the other one, I mean, I can remember various details. I mean, granted, I wasn't nitpicking on the grease and everything like you were, but at the same time, I definitely enjoyed it. I thought, the second part of the book was, like, I kind of really wish that was the entire thing.
There would have been more to it.
Not necessarily saying that it needed to have more fluff filler, but at the same time, that was a much more enjoyable story. I definitely like the art. I like the way that the characters interacted with each other. It felt enough where it's like, yes, they're superheroes, but at the same time, they actually felt like people.
Well, like it was a complete story about people. It was going somewhere, it had a point, and it stuck to the point. I think the problem with the Venom story is that when you see Eddie Brock, he's presented in a certain way, and a lot of the setup comes from the exposition from the two cops, where Eddie's been doing basically raving, like bring out your dead or something, and so it's like he's raving like a lunatic, and they throw him in prison. Which did he commit a crime? I don't know. Is he guilty of something?
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's a good point. Like, it was just enough.
What was he even doing there? So they never really established this, unless he had an arrest warrant for his past behavior, which is possible. But it's like, you've got this character. They throw him in this jail for now, and then he gets this symbiote fragment and gains the powers of Venom again from a non-Venom symbiote, I guess. I don't know. And suddenly he goes from, I must warn you all because we're all screwed, to now I'm going to murder everything. And it's such a heel turn and it makes no sense. And so it's like, I don't know what the hell they're doing. Like, Jesus Christ, like the editor, I think, on this story is to blame the most, because it's like, how did you allow this to go to print? This makes no sense. Like nobody can understand what's going on. The thing about it is like mystery is the exact essence of interest. You have to have a mystery to create some interest in something. But if you just take a fucking deep dive off, yeah, I know. If you take a freaking dive off a cliff, yeah, oh yeah, okay, but I'll put something in the swearing jar. But if you take a dive off the cliff of insanity, okay, you're not creating interest. You're creating confusion, and I don't see this story making anyone want to pick up the next Spider-Man arc, unless you already were sold.
No, I mean that is a thing that Marvel does have a benefit of. The
it's
original company started in the 1930s. Granted, it was the 1960s that the majority of their more superhero-based comics started coming around. But at the same time, they've had almost about 100 years of doing stuff, so they got themselves well established, and people will buy even if they don't like some of the stories. Which, I mean, I've heard of some super fans basically talking about like, I didn't really like this story arc or whatever. And it's like, why are you still buying? You're basically saying like, hey, produce this. But, different points of view.
Well, anyways, I think we need to wrap it up because we're probably out of time now.
Well, as my final thoughts, I definitely want to say that, yes, the first book was, and I definitely like your page, One Mighty R. Just like the Venom movie, the graphics were amazing, and I agree, the story was yuck. But it's the second one. If you do get a chance, I would definitely say pick it up, take your own values within it, take your own likes or whatnot. And if you definitely have a chance, I would love to hear what your thoughts are. But the second part was very favorable to me. It was a really nice, well-written piece. Like you said, that sandwich was well put together, opposed to the first part, where it was a messy burrito, and it just kind of went all over the place without any idea of like this mystery meat being what it is.
They unpeeled the aluminum too early. So next weekend there probably will not be a show because we're going to be at the SummerCon in Puyallup, Washington, which we're anticipating to be a really good show for us because it was excellent last year. It's going to be in the Puyallup Fairgrounds, so if you can come out, you should totally come out, check us out. We'll have lots of cool stuff. Doc will be there selling wands, and then in 2 weeks we are going to be reviewing a book that I've been saving for a while that I wanted to do called Green Valley. By Max Landis, and when I read this book, I loved it. So we'll probably save that review, of course, for in 2 weeks. But it's a 9-part miniseries that was a very surprisingly good book.
Well, definitely want to say thank you for tuning in. Until next time, cheers.
Yeah.
Keep it nerdy.
Yes, hopefully we'll see everybody at the show.
Bye.